Close, close. What was the word? Not close barley. Not close wheat. What had Ali Baba said? Closed door, he tried desperately. Nothing happened. Close gate. The rock didn't move. Close stone. Still nothing. Panic seized Kasim's heart. Open door. Open barley. Open wheat. Open corn. He tried every word he could think of, but in his greed and excitement, the word sesame had completely vanished from his mind. The magic words wouldn't work unless they were exactly right. For hours, Kasim paced back and forth in the cave, trying desperately to remember or guess the correct word. But as the day wore on, his panic grew. What if the thieves returned? What if he was trapped here forever? As the afternoon sun began to set, Kasim heard the sound he had been dreading, the thunder of horses' hooves approaching the cave from outside. The 40 thieves had returned. Their leader spoke the magic words, "Open sesame." And the rock door slid open. There stood Kasim, frozen in terror, surrounded by bags of treasure he had clearly been trying to steal. The thieves' leader drew his sword, his face dark with fury. So, someone has discovered our secret cave. And not only that, you dare to steal from us? Please. Kasim begged, falling to his knees. I meant no harm. I'll put everything back. Just let me go, and I swear I'll never tell anyone about this place. But the thieves showed no mercy to those who invaded their hideout. The leader's face was cold as stone. You have seen our faces. You know our secret. That cannot be allowed. What happened next was swift and terrible. Kasim paid the ultimate price for his greed. After dealing with the intruder, the thieves examined the cave carefully. Someone else must know about this place, the leader said grimly. Otherwise, how would this man have found it? We must be vigilant. Double the guards and watch for anyone suspicious. That night, when Kasim still hadn't returned home, his wife grew worried. She ran to Ali Baba's house, tears streaming down her face. Ali Baba. Kasim went to the forest this morning and hasn't come back. I'm so worried. Did something happen to him? Ali Baba's face went pale. He had a terrible feeling he knew exactly what had happened. I'll go look for him, he said quietly. He took his donkey and went to the cave, though he already feared the worst. When he arrived, he saw Kasim's 10 donkeys still waiting outside the cave, confirming his fears. He spoke the magic words to open the cave, and inside he found his brother, dead, killed by the thieves. Ali Baba wept for his brother, despite Kasim's greed and selfishness. He was still family. Carefully, Ali Baba brought Kasim's body out of the cave and loaded it onto one of the donkeys. Then he closed the cave and led all the animals back to town. He brought the body to Kasim's wife, who collapsed in grief. Together, Ali Baba and Fatima helped her through the difficult days that followed. They arranged a funeral, telling everyone that Kasim had died in an accident while traveling. After a proper mourning period, Ali Baba and Fatima moved into Kasim's larger house to take care of his widow. Ali Baba took over Kasim's merchant business, using some of the gold from the cave to help it grow and prosper. He was careful not to spend too lavishly or attract too much attention, but gradually, his business became quite successful. Ali Baba and his family lived well, but they were always careful and generous, helping the poor and never forgetting their own humble beginnings. Meanwhile, the leader of the 40 thieves had been watching and waiting. Over time, he noticed that the treasure in the cave was slowly decreasing. Someone was taking small amounts regularly. Someone else knows our secret, he told his men. Find out who it is. Go into town, watch the marketplace, and look for anyone who has suddenly become wealthy. Someone who is spending gold freely, that will be our thief. One of the thieves disguised himself as a common merchant and went to the town's marketplace. He watched carefully, and after several days, he noticed Ali Baba, a man he remembered as a poor woodcutter, now dressed in fine clothes, buying goods and paying with gold coins. The thief followed Ali Baba home and saw the large house where he now lived. To mark it so he could find it again, the thief took a piece of chalk and made a large X on the front door. That evening, however, Ali Baba's clever slave girl, Morgiana, came home from the market. She was sharp-eyed and intelligent, and she immediately noticed the strange chalk mark on the door. This is suspicious, she thought. Why would someone mark our door? It can't be for any good reason. Being very wise, Morgiana took the chalk and marked X's on several other doors up and down the street, making them all look identical. The next morning, the 40 thieves rode into town, led by the thief who had marked the door. But when they arrived at the street, they found 5 houses all marked with identical X's. Which house is it? The leader demanded angrily. I don't know, the thief stammered. I marked only one house, I swear. Someone must have discovered my mark and made copies to confuse us. Furious at this failure, the leader of the thieves decided to take matters into his own hands. He disguised himself as an oil merchant, putting on simple clothes and a fake beard. Then he had his men climb into large clay oil jars, 1 thief per jar. He loaded 39 jars with thieves onto a cart, and filled just 1 jar with actual oil to make his disguise believable. In the early evening, the disguised leader drove his cart through town until he reached Ali Baba's house. He knocked on the door. Ali Baba answered, and the oil merchant bowed respectfully. Peace be upon you, friend. I am a humble oil merchant from a distant city. I've been traveling for many days, and night has fallen. All the inns in town are full. Would you, in your kindness, allow me to spend the night in your courtyard? I have valuable oil to protect, you see. Ali Baba, who had always been kind-hearted, didn't suspect anything. Of course. You're welcome to stay. Bring your cart into the courtyard, and I'll have my servants prepare dinner for you. The disguised thief brought his cart into Ali Baba's courtyard and lined up the oil jars. Ali Baba invited him inside for a meal. As they sat eating, Morgiana was in the kitchen preparing the dinner. She suddenly realized they had run out of oil for the lamps. Oh no, she muttered. We need more oil, and the shops are all closed now. Wait, that oil merchant in the courtyard has jars full of oil. Surely he won't mind if I take a small amount for the lamps. She took an oil lamp and went to the courtyard. She approached the first jar and lifted the lid to dip her lamp inside. Is it time yet? Whispered a voice from inside the jar. Morgiana was so shocked she nearly dropped her lamp, but she was quick-witted enough to stay calm. She realized instantly what was happening. These weren't oil jars, but jars full of thieves. And that merchant inside was their leader. Thinking quickly, she whispered back in a gruff voice, not yet. Wait for the signal. She went to each jar in turn, and each time a voice whispered the same question. Each time she gave the same answer. Finally, she reached the last jar, the only one that actually contained oil. Morgiana's mind raced. There were 39 thieves hiding in those jars, waiting to attack her master. She had to act fast. She took the jar of real oil and carried it to the kitchen. There, she poured the oil into a large pot and heated it over the fire until it was boiling hot. Then, using a large ladle, she carefully carried the scalding oil back to the courtyard. Going to each jar in turn, Morgiana poured generous amounts of boiling oil into them through the small opening at the top. The thieves inside couldn't escape and couldn't make noise without alerting their leader. One by one, they were silently defeated by the clever servant girl. When she had finished with all 39 jars, Morgiana went back inside the house and continued serving dinner as if nothing had happened. At midnight, when the house was quiet and everyone appeared to be asleep, the leader of the thieves crept outside to wake his men. He went to the first jar and whispered, "Now! Come out now!" Silence. He went to the next jar. "Wake up! It's time!" Still no response. Growing alarmed, the leader opened one of the jars. The smell of boiled oil hit him, and he saw what had happened. Horror and rage filled his heart as he checked jar after jar, finding all his men dead. Realizing he had been discovered and was now alone, the leader of the thieves fled into the night, leaving his cart and jars behind. The next morning, Morgiana told Ali Baba everything that had happened. Ali Baba was amazed and terrified. "Morgiana, you saved all our lives. Those thieves would have murdered us in our sleep." "We're not safe yet, Master," Morgiana warned. "The leader escaped. He knows where we live, and he'll surely come back for revenge." She was right to be cautious. The leader of the thieves, now alone and consumed with hatred, vowed to kill Ali Baba himself. Several days later, a distinguished-looking merchant appeared at Ali Baba's door. He was dressed in fine silks and wore an elegant turban, the leader of the thieves in yet another disguise. "Good sir," the stranger said with a respectful bow, "I am a merchant newly arrived in your town. I've heard that you are a fair and honest businessman. I was hoping we might discuss a partnership." Ali Baba, not recognizing the disguised thief, welcomed him warmly. "Please, come in. Any friend of business is a friend of mine." They sat in the reception room, drinking tea and discussing trade. The disguised leader was charm itself, laughing at Ali Baba's jokes and complimenting his taste. But hidden in his robes was a sharp dagger, and he was waiting for the right moment to strike. Morgiana served them tea and fruit. Her sharp eyes studied the merchant carefully. Something about him seemed familiar. The way he moved, the way his eyes darted around the room. Then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. Under the edge of the man's fine robe, she glimpsed the hilt of a dagger. She immediately understood, this was the leader of the thieves. He had come to murder her master. Morgiana knew she had to act, but how? If she simply accused him, he might attack immediately, and someone would certainly die. She needed a plan. "Master," she said sweetly, "to honor your distinguished guest, would you like me to perform a dance? I learned a traditional dance from my homeland." "What a wonderful idea," Ali Baba said. "Please do, Morgiana." Morgiana left and returned wearing a dancer's costume with a veil and bells on her wrists and ankles. In her hand, she carried what appeared to be a decorative dagger, a common prop in traditional dances. She began to dance, moving gracefully around the room. Ali Baba clapped along with the rhythm. The disguised thief leader watched with narrowed eyes, his hands slowly moving toward his hidden weapon. Morgiana danced closer and closer to the guest, spinning and swaying. The bells on her ankles chimed with each step. She raised her decorative dagger high as part of the dance, spinning faster and faster. Then, in one swift movement, she lunged forward and plunged her dagger into the guest's heart. "Morgiana!" Ali Baba screamed in horror, jumping to his feet. "What have you done? You've murdered my guest." "Look, master," Morgiana said, pulling open the dead man's robe to reveal his hidden dagger and, underneath his fine clothes, the rough garments of a thief. "This is no merchant. This is the leader of the 40 thieves. He came here to kill you." Ali Baba stared in shock, then recognition dawned on his face. "You're right. I see it now, this is the same man I saw in the forest that day. Morgiana, you've saved my life again." He embraced his brave servant girl with tears of gratitude. "You've saved me and my family twice now. You're no longer my slave, from this day forward, you're a free woman. And I give you half my fortune as a reward." But Morgiana shook her head. I need no reward, master. Your kindness to me over the years is payment enough. But I would ask one thing, let me marry your nephew, Rashid, if he'll have me. We've loved each other for a long time. Ali Baba was delighted. Of course. The wedding shall be held next month. And so it was. Morgiana married Ali Baba's nephew in a grand celebration that lasted 3 days. The entire town came to celebrate the brave woman who had defeated the 40 thieves. With the leader dead and all his men gone, Ali Baba and his family could finally live in peace. The magic cave, now forgotten by all but Ali Baba, remained hidden in the forest. Ali Baba visited it occasionally, always taking only what he needed and using much of it to help the poor and build schools and hospitals in the town. Ali Baba lived to be a very old man, respected and loved by all who knew him. He shared the secret of the cave only with his eldest son, who promised to use it wisely and help others, just as his father had done. And they all lived happily ever after, proving that kindness, wisdom, and cleverness are far greater treasures than all the gold in the world.